Namaskar and a very good evening. I, Mukta Kandiyal, welcome you all on this live interactive session of Sahyog. And as you all know, we run this series to provide psychosocial support and mental well-being to all our viewers and learners. And the topic we have today on the table for discussion is coping with failures and setbacks. And as always, we are also joined by two of the experts who will be giving us thorough information on the topic we will be discussing today. So the very first expert we have today is Dr. Prachi Gildial. Ma'am is from NERIE Shillong. Namaskar Prachi ma'am, बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है आपके सत्र में.
Thank you, Jyoti.
And the second expert we have today with us is Miss Soma Bhattacharjee. Ma'am is practicing counselor. Namaskar Soma ma'am, आपका भी बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है इस सत्र में.
Namaskar, thank you.
And you're watching at this program on PM eVidya channel number 6 to 12, also on our YouTube channel that is ncertofficial. So if you have any queries, any questions that you would like to raise with us, you can call us on a number that is 8800440559. You can also write to us at sahyog.ncert@cit.nic.in. Apart from these two mediums, you can also join with us through our YouTube channel that is ncertofficial. You can drop your queries, any questions that you have for today's session through live chat box option over there. So without any further delay, let's start today's session, and I would like to request Prachi ma'am to please start today's session by giving us information on what exactly failure is, ma'am, and why is it necessary that we talk about this.
Thank you very much. We are talking about this important topic because these days a lot of young people are troubled by this fear of failing, and this leads to a lot of negative consequences. Failure is a word that gives us nightmares. Actually, whenever we start thinking of something or doing something, the first question that comes to our mind is, what if we fail? So this fear of failing often prevents us from even trying to accomplish something. We feel that it's better not to get into things because we might just fail. So what do we mean by failure? Now, it's important to understand this because this is going to help us to delve into how we can cope with failure. Now, we encounter failure when we are moving towards a goal that we have set for ourselves, but we are not able to achieve it. So this gap between the goal and our reaching it is failure, generally speaking. So we as people do not actually fail. We experience failure. So if you see how we talk about failure, we say we experience failure, we met failure. So when we talk of failure in this sense that we experience failure or we met failure, it's like failure is not within us. Failure is something external to us. It is something which is out there in the environment. So it is not we as people who are failing, but we are encountering a situation which is not as per our expectations. It is the strategy that we have used, the methods that we have employed to reach our goals that did not work for us, and these need to be revisited. Failure is a feedback for us to review our methods and to try a new strategy. And that is why today what I would like to say here is that we need to substitute the word failure, and this is why we have titled our topic as coping with failures and setbacks. So rather than using the word failure, we would prefer to use the word setback, because the meaning that we get by using the two different words is very different. The imagery that we get of a setback is that we are moving ahead towards our goal and something happens which was not as expected, and we have to stop in the middle and recoup or think again about how we should be moving ahead. But when we talk about failure, it has a very permanent and a very final kind of a connotation with it, that it's lost. Things are now lost and there's nothing that we can do to move ahead now. So this thing is important, that we use the word setback rather than the word failure, because once you change the way you talk about something, its impact on you also changes. Now today we also are going to talk about the need to discuss this issue. Why are we talking about coping with failure? We are doing this because uh, the young people around us, they are really bogged down by this big stress of failing. And because these setbacks, they often have long lasting and very detrimental effects. People give up, they have low self esteem, they start questioning their self worth, and at times they become severely depressed. uh, they lose the motivation to do anything, and may choose to do things that are very simple. They don't even want to challenge themselves because they don't want to fail. They don't even take up a task which they feel might require more effort, and where there is a risk of failing. So this is actually a loss of the potential that we have around us. But this is why we need to talk about failure, and this low aspiration, this fear that I might just fail and not be able to succeed. It's a vicious cycle, because this fear of failure makes people lower their aspirations. They don't work for the challenges. They don't even try something which could be challenging, and then they do not get the sense of accomplishment or achievement. So they end up feeling demotivated. They start questioning their self-worth. So it is important for us to reorient the way we think about failures and setbacks, so that we are able to set realistic goals and work to achieve them and experience success and a sense of achievement. Now, today we are going to talk about basically two kinds of failures. One is in the personal sphere, failures and setbacks in the personal sphere, and then we will be talking about academic failures. Now, academic failures are also part of personal failure, but this is something so important for most of our young people, that we will be dealing with it separately. I will talk about the personal setbacks first, and then we will move on to the academic one. So when we talk about failures and setbacks in the personal sphere, we are talking about relationships with others, and also the relationship that we have with our own self. So what is this kind of relationship that we are talking about? We want to be loved by others, we want to be accepted by others, and also be respected. So the same expectations we have from our own selves. We want to love ourselves, we want to accept ourselves, so that we feel good about ourselves. When this does not happen, we have a sense of failure. We start devaluing ourselves and become upset. We start having negative feelings about ourselves. This can at times often lead to very serious consequences like depression also. So maybe before I get into how we can cope with the failures in the personal sphere, maybe Soma madam would like to talk about academic failure, and then I can talk about how to cope with failures in the.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. And thank you so much for the information that you have already thrown in this session to all our students and viewers. Soma ma'am, we would like to come to you now, and can you please let our students know that what exactly is academic failure, and how does it affect this young generation we have today?
Well, success to me is not final, and failure is not fatal. It is the courage to count and continue. That is what actually counts, according to me. And as you've seen in the slide one, I have just put it that Winston Churchill quoted the same: success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. Now, if we come to the causes of failure, well, the most important fact here, as for me, is the learning environment. We need to find out what is the actual problem. It may not be conducive for the student This factor is based on individual preferences. Very often we find that when we talk to the students, that either the environment at home is not at all congenial, and the child is actually mentally not fit at that moment, or in the evening when he sits or she sits for her studies. Second is the mental health of the child in the school. The child may be bullied or is unhappy with their school, or is unhappy with their peers, or it may affect their academics. So if the child is unable to grasp the concepts taught, it hampers their ability to learn. So these are the factors, I feel, a few factors which causes failure. Now if we come to the effects and the causes of academic failure, it leads to self-esteem issues. Failure may cause self-esteem issues as the child may begin to doubt his or her abilities. Encouragement and support are key to overcoming this problem.
Okay, so as of now, we have learned about that what exactly is academic failure. So Prachima, we would like to come to you now. So how can we cope up with this academic failure? So if you can throw some light on this to all our learners so that they can get some knowledge on how they can cope up with academic failure in their lives.
I will be talking more about coping with failure in the personal sphere, and Soma will be talking more on coping with academic failure. So to begin with, the first thing for us to do is to know that this is just a step. जिसको हम बोलते हैं एक हमारी जर्नी में एक पड़ाव है. It's a place where we take stock of things, we take rest, and we recoup, we rejuvenate, and we re-strategize. So this is just a stop in our journey towards our goal. So we have to view this failure as such, not as the final thing. This is not the final thing, as Soma has already mentioned. It is a feedback that something you are doing is not right. You need to change your strategy. Take stock and restart. Again, for young people and also for all of us, we need to remember that it is not we as a person who have failed. So when I was in school, if a child failed in class and joined our class, and some children called this student a failure, they said, "Oh, she's a failure." So our class teacher told us, "Do not ever call anyone a failure. It's not a person who's a failure. It's just a situation that they have met with. So it is not you as a person who has failed, it is the method that you were using that has failed." The other important thing here to cope with failure is that we need to set realistic goals and need to have realistic expectations from ourselves as well as from others. And these expectations need to be based on a very, very clear, realistic appraisal of what I can do, not only what I want to do. It's not just what I want to do, it also has to be what I want, what I can do. So you have to be aware of your potential, and there has to be a match between your potential and your expectations and your desires. So we need to be realistic about our expectations, but we always need to also challenge our limits. So we have to challenge our limits, not just be satisfied with what we can do easily. So if we are able to accomplish a task that is easy for us to do, it doesn't give us any sense of satisfaction or success, because we know that deep inside we know that it was no big deal. Anyone could have done it. On the reverse, when we take up a challenging task, we know that it is difficult and there are less chances for us to really succeed so easily. So it is okay for us even if we have failed. It is just a learning experience. You might have seen there are a lot of children who take the JEE and ye medical wala NEET exams. So they may not be really, they do not expect to clear the exam in this particular instance. But why are they taking the exam? They take the exam because they want to learn how they should answer the questions. They need to learn, they need to see where they stand. So getting feedback about how you measure up to the goals that you have set for yourself is important. And failure can be one feedback, one way of knowing yourself, knowing your potential, knowing your weak areas and working on those areas so that you can succeed the next time. Another thing is that failure is a sign that you are attempting something difficult and challenging. And when we experience failure, rather than giving excuses, blaming it on things, blaming it on the teacher, saying that the teacher doesn't like me, so that is why I got poor marks, or because there was no electricity, that is why I could not study. No, blaming it on other external factors is not really a good idea to cope with failure. We really need to delve into the causes. What is it that I did not do correctly? What is it that I should have done and I failed to do? So those are the things that we need to think of when we are analyzing. We need to analyze failure. It is also an important point of time to gain the skills which you have been lacking. It is not the setback in itself that is important. It is how you perceive it and react to it that is going to determine whether you succeed or whether you end up with a sense of feeling worthless and being a failure. The last thing that I would say here is that once you experience failure or you encounter failure, you need to sit down, think about it and plan a new strategy so that you can move ahead. And as we often have heard this, we need to just try and try until we succeed. Yeah. So maybe Soma would like to add on this.
Yes, so Soma ma'am, we would like to request you to, if you have anything to add on to Prachi's ma'am, what she has taught to us.
Well, Miss has already spoken everything as she is an expert in this field. I'm definitely very sure about it. Well, yes, effects of academic failure leads to low self-esteem, fear. Fear of failure at times creates havoc in the mind, and the child avoids to open the book, avoids this, fearing that, okay, and so as a result, it keeps on piling up. And when things pile up to a great extent, automatically you don't know where to begin. So at this juncture, it is the duty of the teachers where they have to pop in, provided the child takes an opportunity to talk to the teacher. Well, at times we also have seen the psychological effect happening on the child. And many a times these days we are seeing as a cause of depression, etc., where they need to seek professional help. But at the same time, they need to be properly encouraged. And of course, one more additional effect which we often see in the child is the layback attitude, where they take this this pretext of depression, which existed before, will exist and will continue to exist, but it is not that it has gained its highlight, and we are instilling it into the minds of the children. Now, if we come to the point where how to overcome failure, well, one thing I feel is practicing self-compassion, because this is an important step. We are compassionate towards others, but we are never compassionate towards ourselves. So when we have to cope with our failure, we need to be a little bit compassionate with ourselves also, if we don't have the other support from outside. But not pamper oneself, but become determined and encouraged, and have the vision that yes, I can do it. That is, build up the self-esteem. once we have acknowledged that we are experiencing something painful, we have to extend that same compassion to others, and as well as to ourselves. Self compassion involves being warm, caring, and understanding to oneself instead of always judging ourselves or criticizing ourselves and finding others better than me or than us. So we often compare. So this comparing has to stop. As ma'am has already mentioned, in academics also we need to revisit and redevelop. We need to look back and find out what is the cause. Why did I fail? Was it my lack of practice? Was it that I was not studying? Was it that these gadgets were my friend? Because today gadgets are creating a big hamper. Well, it has its pros and cons, I know, but then we have not yet learned how to use it in a discreet way. So we often tend to use it in a wrong manner. And so we are giving a lot of time to it. And we have seen a lot of effects when we take away the gadgets from them, especially the mobile. So we need to reset our goals at times and revisit and redevelop. Here, the role of parents also play a very important part because the parents need to be encouraging, not blindly, but if at all the child has put in the best effort and has given the best, we need to encourage and say this is not the end and find out again, once again, what is the cause, what is the reason, where are we lacking? Is it that this is not my cup of tea? I should shift to something else, which is my passion. Because at times we throw our interests, which we could not achieve, to our child, and that becomes a kind of a cutthroat condition to the child. Because the child maybe prefers painting, but we want the child to become a doctor. So there can be failures in academics. In that context, we need a real good support from the parent end and encourage the child. Tell the child that if we work hard, nothing is impossible. And that indirectly talks about motivation, helping the child find out what motivates them to study. In modern world, I think motivation is what we are lacking, and this motivation can be in different ways. There are children who love music and like to do their work with music, so we cannot go back to the olden times and say, no, music will hamper, you'll be disturbed. Nowadays, it is not so. Many children love to work in that way, but not with their headphones. Many of them like to walk about and study. Many like to study late nights. So these kind of things, if it is there, we need to motivate and accept and encourage them. So I think that's all what I have to say regarding overcoming failure in academics.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Soma ma'am, for sharing these great tips that how one can overcome failure, and they can take failure in not just a negative way. They can take it as in a positive way, improve themselves, rectify their all mistakes. And I think there are several factors involved in this. And as you said, rightly said, that parents definitely play an important role in coping up with failure, especially for their children, for the students. They can motivate their child to take their failure as in a positive way, as we have just mentioned. So we are about to end this session right here, but before that I would like to request both of our experts to give any concluding remarks for this session. Prachi ma'am, we would like to start with you first.
Yeah. So in conclusion, I think basically what I would like to say is that failure is something that we have made it a big issue in life, but we need to know that everyone has experienced that once in their lives, not once, many times in their lives. So judging people, or this is why young people and even us grown-ups, we are so much obsessed with succeeding. We want to be successful, but what is this success that we are running after? It's not really what might make us happy. So success is seen in very, very materialistic terms, and when we do not reach those materialistic goals, we say that we are a failure. And in this context, as Soma has already mentioned, the role of parents, and not only parents, everyone who's around us is very important, because people place this condition of respecting or accepting people who are successful only. They think that people who have not made it in the world are really not good enough. But this being preoccupied with being successful actually becomes very it becomes a very stressful thing for people, and the success that is being measured is something which I might not consider as success. So when we talk about failure, we really need to know what exactly is that where we have failed. Is it really failure only? Is it really the failure? It might just be a difference in the priorities that we have. I might consider that being a good person is a more important thing to be than being a very rich person or someone who's placed in a very high profile job. So what is successful for one may not be successful for the other. So it depends upon our priorities. And parents and all significant people they have a very important role in making young people understand that it's what makes me happy at the end that I need to work for. And when I'm working for what makes me happy, I will always succeed. I will not fail. I fail only when I am trying to do things which make others happy. When I'm trying to do things which make other people happy, then I might fail. But when I'm doing things which make me happy, I will never fail. I will always succeed. So that's what I would like to say.
Thank you so much, Prachi ma'am, for these kind words. So, ma'am, any piece of advice from your end?
Well, ma'am has put it very clearly. We have given our yardstick to others' hand. Our success is ours. Don't give the yardstick of our life to someone else. Let not others judge our success or our failure. Our success is within us. Let us look at ourselves in the mirror and see if we think that we have given our best, because the mirror is the only thing which never lies. Everything can lie, but mirror cannot lie, because we speak to the mirror. So if the mirror says I have given the best, then that is my success. So let's not give the yardstick to anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soma ma'am. And I would like to once again thank both of our experts to redefine the failure on this platform and enlightening our students, our viewers about it. Thank you one more time to both of our experts for joining with us today and delivering this informative, this powerful session to all our viewers out there. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank all our viewers as well who connected with us throughout this session. Stay connected to PM Vidya channel and NCRT official in the same way. Namaskar.